Just wait a second. I think we're recording now. I made a huge mistake, Bill. I made a huge mistake, and I got lit up in the comments, and Ben Berry messaged me, and a bunch of people messaged me.
Okay.
I put out a video earlier today talking about the USPSA stuff with Yemen, with the elections. Possibly they're losing members, you know. Well, I mean, we'll talk about that too. But I didn't mention the, and I'll explain why I didn't mention it, like how my psychology works. But I did not mention a really big issue with Yemen Lin voting for him as president.
What issue is that?
Well, as you reminded me, I mean, I knew this, but you reminded me, as well as other people bringing this up. Hey, he's not eligible to be president of USPSA right now.
Not right now.
So can you explain that for the listener? What exactly is the situation?
So at the end of May, the board May of this year, the board upheld the NROI discipline and removed Yemen's RO certification. And once that happens, you're no longer eligible to be a member of the board or the president. And that was for 1 year. He could petition to get it back April 31st of 2024.
So Yemen, not an RO, not eligible to be president. Here's my question: why is he on the ballot?
You don't have to be. You don't have to meet the requirements of the.
This is something you're familiar with, right?
I was not an RO when I ran for Area 4 last year.
Okay.
I took the RO class in August of last year. So I'm an RO now. I wasn't when I ran for office.
Okay. So nothing out of sorts, but he's not eligible, but he's on the ballot. Okay. So let me tell you why this didn't, I mean, again, I've been aware of this, but this didn't occur to me to mention.
Right. As long as you meet the requirements by when you take office on January 1, everything's fine.
So, okay. So in my brain, I'm pretty cynical. Some might say I'm pretty realistic about how this stuff's going to play out. It did not escape my notice that one of the other people on the board was not eligible to be on the board. Mel Roduro, the Area 4 director, a few months ago, not an RO. That came out, and he stayed on the board. He did eventually become an RO, and he's still on the board to this day, even though that unequivocally that violates the bylaws. Yeah,
it does violate the bylaws. The bylaws say that you are deemed to have resigned as soon as you no longer meet the requirements, which to my mind, that reads like it's an automatic
resignation.
It's an automatic resignation. You don't have to do anything. As soon as you no longer meet the requirements.
I actually think the word automatic is in the bylaws.
I don't have them in front of me, so.
Okay, I think it is. I don't remember exactly. Okay, so in my brain, there's two possible scenarios here. Okay, Yemen gets reelected, and the board, I mean, what I'm pointing out is the board doesn't follow the bylaws. The bylaws are guidelines. So all of this stuff about, hey, Yemen's not eligible to be president, I'm like, well, that's sort of irrelevant to me. And what I mean is, if he's eligible and he's elected, that's sort of irrelevant to the board. They will, form a conspiracy to make him ineligible and then remove him from his position on the board if they deem it so. If he's just not eligible, as Mel was not eligible, right?
Right.
Then they'll just leave him on the board. So to me, it's like sort of irrelevant in a sense, whether or not he's technically eligible, because it's going to come down to the board either way. And should he get reelected, not be eligible, they have his little appeal or whatever, he's still not eligible. And then they say, yep, you're out. You're not president. We're going to keep, the vice president's going to be the president now. So Leighton will be the president of USPSA. And that's how we're doing it. To me, that's just a choice on their part, a choice they could make anytime.
Right. And he can petition the board for reinstatement But it's the same board. None of the new officers take their positions until January 1. The only new officer that there might be is, I'm assuming that they're going to nominate Russell Fortney to finish out Ted's term as Area 8 director.
Yes, I would assume so.
So that would be one new board member that didn't vote to terminate Yemen's RO, sir.
Okay, so I guess what's the play for people here? So you'd say don't vote Yemen?
I mean, if you vote for Yemen and he wins, there's no guarantee that he's going to be president, because the board can decide, regardless of how people vote, whether to restore his RO credentials or not. If the board decides not to, then there's going to have to be a special election for president, which will take
Another year?
Another year, at least 6 months. People will have to do all new petitions. They'll have to run the ads in the magazine. It's certainly not going to be before the regularly scheduled election in June or July that we have every year. So we'd be looking at least 6 months of
Leighton being president.
Probably
but that sounds hilarious to me.
Probably more like 9 months, because there would be a runoff.
Probably.
And the other thing is, I don't know how much these elections cost. And this would be another 2 elections that we would have to pay for. That, I mean, we had a $5,000 surplus this year in the budget.
I think they lost money though. I think they lost like $800,000.
No, but the budget said that we had a $5,000 surplus.
Okay, but I mean, never mind. Yeah, okay. They had $800,000 at the end of the year. They had $800,000 less than when they started. Is I think what happened, or $1 million or something like that. But yes, that was $5,000. It was $5,000 better than I guess they thought it'd be. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the budget. I mean, the budget was ridiculous. The budget showed a surplus because if they have a deficit, they have to specially vote on it, as I understand it.
Yeah, so I want to also address, I think you had a discussion on Instagram today in comments with, was it Luigi Lee?
Yes.
Okay, so one thing that really jumped out at me was there's 8,000 less USPSA members eligible to vote in this election compared to last year. And
right.
What Luigi said on Instagram, I don't know if this is true, but what he said is if they didn't make a change to the rules at kind of the last minute, it had been under 20,000 people eligible to vote.
What I heard was that this last minute change let something like between 6,000 and 8,000 members vote that wouldn't have otherwise been eligible to vote.
And as you pointed out to me, this is why I actually want to talk to you. It's like, you're like, that's as
many votes as were cast.
Yes. That's wild. It seems to me poor form to be changing rules at the last minute. Do you know what happened?
I don't know what happened. I think that giving people the benefit of the doubt, I don't think they realized. So the issue is when they did the big bylaw amendments at the beginning of 2022, they added in a requirement that you had to be a member of USPSA for at least a year before you could vote in any election.
Yes.
And
but then a lot of people had lapsed or did lapse at some point.
I think what a lot of people, and I don't know the stats on this. I assume what happens is a lot of people are annual members, and they don't renew their membership until after it expires. They don't keep it running continuously.
So this is a big population of people.
Right. And we already knew that USPSA churned members, right?
Yeah, of course. There's always churn.
Yeah. So, I mean, but 6,000 or 8,000 people churning memberships or letting it lapse before renewing it. And it might be, you let it lapse and then realize a month later that there's a level 2 you want to register for, so you renew it.
I think that might be the case for a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right. So that's just an interesting way to change. I mean, it is. I wouldn't say it's not necessary. I don't want to use the word sketchy because I don't even think is as gross and I would say evil as these guys are. I don't think they were really up to anything with this. I think they just. You realize they had excluded a lot of people?
Well, I think they didn't look at it when they were changing the bylaws. I don't think they looked at how people renew their memberships. And then, I mean, if they had looked at that, they would have said, well, do we really want to make this 1-year requirement without some kind of grace period, which is what the change added now. If you renew your membership within 60 days of it lapsing, you can continue to vote in elections.
Yeah. It's just interesting. So it's just amazing to have a last minute rule change that is so consequential.
Right. I mean, like I mentioned, if everybody who had if their membership had lapsed and all of those voters that had been reinstated, if they'd all voted for Dexter Lopez, we would have a president.
We would have a president.
I mean, they could have all jumped behind anybody, and it would have decided the election.
It is amazing, isn't it? Okay, so what's your read on the number of eligible voters falling so much? Is there less members now? Is that what it is? Because it's what it looks like.
I don't think it's that there's less members. I think, I mean, I'm sure there are less members, and I think they've been replaced by new members. But anybody who's joined since August of last year isn't going to be eligible to vote. You had to join before May 1st of last year to be eligible to vote in this election, I believe. So if you weren't planning ahead and when you're thinking about when you were going to join USPSA, I mean, most people think about joining USPSA for classifications or shooting major matches. They don't think about voting in the elections.
No, I mean, most people don't vote in the elections. The supermajority do not vote in the elections at all. All right. Anything to say about the presidential election or the Area 6 election before we call it?
I voted for Luigi. I'm probably going to vote for Luigi again. I don't know you men. I don't know Luigi, but what I've seen online, I think Luigi is better for the to deal with the board that we've got right now.
Well, they called Yeaman a sex pervert and fired him from his job, and I haven't seen any response from him in public. It's kind of crazy to me.
That is crazy, and I mean, we haven't seen any response at all. And of course, we also haven't seen any official statement of the allegations.
Well, no, they have the one statement that was vague about the allegations.
Right,
from the USPSA specific. Board, where they basically said,
that's like saying that
hey, we think this guy's a sex harasser.
Well, that's like saying that, you brought discredit on the organization. It's like, give us some specifics here. Like what actions were actually taken?
Well, apparently there was dry humping. There was inappropriate conduct. If every time someone dry humped someone else, there was these kind of consequences handed out in USPSA, I think we'd have a lot less members.
We'd have a lot less members, and it would mostly happen at matches where there weren't any women. Like they would, like, I mean, it's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
What it looks like to me is they found something they could get him on,
And they got him. Yeah.
And they got him. That's what it looks like to me.
And to me, it doesn't seem like I'm like you. I would support Luigi. I do support Luigi instead of Yeaman. However, I think Yeaman getting reelected, I don't really see I mean, aside from him being president, which I don't think he's going to be villainous. I just think he's going to be useless. I don't think he's going to do anything productive. But if he gets reelected, the board has to eat shit either way. Like if they yeet him again from the job, that's horrible. That looks really bad for them.
Right. Well, if they yeet him again, I guarantee you, he's going to run again.
That would be great. That would be so funny.
And
yes. So if they yeet him again, that's hysterical. And if they let him in, it's like they're kind of losing. They're taking an L if they let him in. So there's really no winning scenario at this point for the board. Either they have to deal with Luigi, they take an L from Yeaman, or they have to yeet Yeaman again, in which case they take a PR L. No matter what, there's no good scenario.
Right. And I think Yeaman would run again. Because that election would be over after he could ask the board for reinstatement anyway. The year would be up.
Well, he's not guaranteed reinstatement after a year, is he?
Yeah, I don't think he is. They could still say no. So we could keep doing this. We could have a special election, and Yeaman could win every year, and the board could say no.
I think we're destined to do this dance forever, as they say. That would be funny. As useless as
that would be funny.
Maybe they did find a use for him. I don't know. To be the perpetual not president of USPSA, that would be funny. All right, Bill, thank you very much for coming on and highlighting this stuff. I assume if people have questions or comments, well, we're not going to answer them, so they're just kind of shit out of luck.
Sounds about right.